Athens, but whatever is morning, evening in the places you come from. So we'll start with welcoming and few comments from Miro.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. Some familiar faces and some new faces. Welcome to the third Meet the Expert session of the Asterousia Hybrid University of this year. So regarding some announcements about the course, I have grouped them in PPT. Let's see how I can share. So if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
So this week we focus on education for sustainable development, also awareness and communication tools, effective tools for the environment. Our guest this week is Bernard Combe. He's an expert from UNESCO. He has been working with UNESCO for many years. Last year he got retired, but also as a freelancer, he still advocates strongly for ESD. Hopefully, we will see him later. Uh, our session is recorded, so you are welcome to keep your camera on if you wish, but keep your microphone off unless you want to take the floor. And if you have any extra questions that you didn't have time to put in Slido, you can also use the chat. So this is our closing week. In the first week, we talked about the general frameworks of sustainable development, the SDGs, the MABBR, Man in the Biosphere program of UNESCO. In the second week, we went deeper to how links between heritage and culture natural heritage and cultural heritage can be found in biosphere reserves, and we did that through lectures, but also through a series of case studies for which we're welcome. In this week also, we continue with some key lectures, but also combined with the case studies coming from your own sites. The statistics about the course, we started already back in week 1 with 216 registrations. Out of this number, 54% is actually active in the course, so more than half have already logged in the course and interacted with the content. And of course, you are familiar with the process. Every week we have some new questions to discuss. A little bit, some statistics about the informal evaluation of the second week. It was the week where the case studies appeared as content in our course. Last week we started with 6, and this week we continued with 7 more. So apparently this was the strongest point of the previous week, because you consider that the plurality that we have in the case studies make your learning more explanatory and provide insights for your own sites, and they can link successfully the theoretical frameworks that we discuss through the lectures with real-world examples. So thank you for that, because it's something that you all contributed. So if you can note in the chat briefly, I guess the people that are here are already progressing. Today we had the first assignment submission, but we can talk a little bit more about how you will complete your assignments. So note in the chat from 1 to 4 how much you have progressed in the course, so that we can have a small statistic of maturity. And as you do that, we go through the week 3 overview. So this week we focus on education, awareness, and communication. We start by exploring some visions, some pictures, some diagrams of how ESD, Education for Sustainable Development, is depicted. And we deal with important policy frameworks in Europe and in the Mediterranean where ESD is found. Then we follow a lecture on how UNESCO sites are ideal sites to implement ESD. We start to touch upon some methods that are closely linked to ESD, such as heritage interpretation and citizen science. We start also to see some examples from MEDIS and MIO around these methods. Then we have a series of case studies coming from Greece, Italy, Mexico, but from an Italian speaker, uh, South Africa, again Italy, and Portugal. Some of them through videos, some of them through texts. There are two extra webinars that is optional content for you, one on effective environmental education and another one, which is a bigger from UNESCO, again on using UNESCO sites as sites to apply ESD. Now, as this is a final week, some notes on the assignment. In order for you to complete the course, you have to submit an assignment. So you need to present an idea for an action that highlights the links between natural and cultural heritage for your own site. Regardless of whether you live in such a site, you can take an example of a site that is close to you. So this is an opportunity for you to browse the types of UNESCO sites that are in your country and their functionalities. So depending on your profession, you can come up with a lesson plan or a worksheet. You can also build on Hydria that we discussed in week 2 and develop a worksheet or something specific for this, for Hydria Virtual Museum. A semi-structured interview, a guided walk, an initiative co-created with an artist, citizen science project. I'm just using here ideas that we have already seen throughout these 3 weeks. Now, the format needs to be in a 2-page document, or if you prefer to present it in a presentation, it needs to be around 12 slides. If you want to use AI, probably you will. AI is in our lives, but it is detectable. So use it with caution and critical thinking to whatever result comes up with it, because if we detect that the assignments are purely composed by AI without a critical reflection on behalf of the participant, this will not get a pass mark. And you will need to get a pass mark in order to complete the entire course. So in order to complete the course and get your certificate, you need to get your assignment submitted and graded by the deadline, which is next Sunday, 15th of February. Fill in the evaluation form. This time it's not informal evaluation, it's a proper survey. So you should fill this in. And please remember to check at the end of each unit this button at the bottom to show to us that you have completed following this unit. So if you have done all this, you will reach, and your assignment is graded, it gets a pass mark, you will reach the stage where after you log into the platform, you will have here a small sign, something like a medal, that once you click on it, you can also see it under your profile, under My Certificates. And once you click on it, you can download your certificate. That's it for me.
Thank you very much, Hiro. If there is any question on what Hiro presented, please ask for the floor, and she is, I'm sure she is ready to reply. If there is no such a request,
Or you can write them in the chat if there are technical things regarding the assignment and so on. You can also write them in the chat.
excellent. So I don't know if Bernard is with us, but otherwise I start a little bit with an overview of what we have received as questions. And first of all, I would like to thank you for all those who presented case studies, very interesting studies. Actually, some of you referred to some of them. I think I will come back to the museum, Museo del Mare in Elba. And this links to many other activities also of previous weeks. I start with a few clarifications because there are some questions that show that perhaps we still have at least some questions showing a kind of hesitation, confusion between education for sustainable development and environmental education. There is a question. I would like to start with that because it is very important also for all what we are doing. So perhaps we can share two slides I have for that. These are very closely linked, of course, forms of education. And environmental education, this is something else. Leave it there. This is also about a question about if we can have formal and informal education together, and what is the difference there. No, we cannot and we should not have formal and informal as one. We need to have a synergy between them or among all the three. The very clear distinction is between formal and informal. The formal, you have the school educators in an institution and addresses students, pupils of different age. So it is an institution behind, and the educators, at the end of the day, have they have a series of objectives on which they have to provide a guarantee that the process has been concluded. So this is important. So we do have a specific, to a large extent, knowledge first. It has a knowledge also objective. So it has a set of objectives, not only knowledge, but knowledge is important in the formal education. So this is also why Why? Because knowledge is also more easily checked, so that there is a set of examinations and a guarantee that at least the cognitive part has been completed. For the other things, it is more difficult to provide a certificate. Now, awareness education that is done by informal educators, non-governmental organizations, professional organizations, local authorities, not necessarily within an institutional framework, and addressing the wider society or even specific sectors of the society, but through this network, which is more flexible, and it does not contain, it may contain, but is not part of a set curriculum, an examination part, and the guarantee part. This is totally informal. Now, we have a mixed situation where the school gets to the society, parents and the local society around the school, or national society, all the schools or whatever. This is non-formal because the institution, the school, gets outside the school to not to students but to a larger public. Similarly, when an NGO enters a school with the approval of the school and in synergy with them, this is again non-formal. So the same is when the students themselves address the society. So all these are non-formal. So clearly we have formal, informal, and non-formal, and we need to have all these because there are different types of information that is needed, and also this system offers a flexibility and free flow of information and knowledge. Now we come to the other question about the difference between environmental education and education for sustainable development. When we started, and this is important, when we started in 72 with the concept of environmental education, we had a rather simple or even simplistic idea that if we take care of the spaceship Earth, the environment of this spaceship Earth, everything else automatically could have been resolved. So we said we have to secure the natural environment, and through that we expect that we have also the right type of development and to a certain extent also prosperity and solution of most of the societal problems. So the environmental education has as single most important objective to have a protection of the natural environment, which is very important. And because this is a finite resource, and we have to live within the carrying capacity of this system. However, it is like a tree. The development was always there, always from the very first day. But as I said, we had the idea, the ideal, that by caring for the environment, we have, so here in the visualization, the environment, the soil, and the rest, the tree will be the development, will have a healthy tree. The healthy tree produces healthy and enough fruit to be distributed, and therefore the problems are okay. But in essence, you may have a very healthy tree with a lot of fruit, but the distribution is not the right one, or you have a neighbor that cuts the tree. So we instead, the emphasis now, let's move to the next one, is not only to the environment, but to the tree. We get from the soil and the water to the tree. This doesn't mean that we neglect the environment, just the opposite, because you get deeper in taking care of the economic and social root causes for the damage of the environment, and vice versa. So here, the emphasis in sustainable development is on development, how the development is of the character that allows for the environment to be there, but also the attention is given to the fruit. How? The economy, by pruning the tree, bringing, I mean, if you have the fruit at the very top is difficult to collect, I may give you some analogs. And the same is also for the justice, the distribution of the fruit, perhaps smaller fruits, but more. And so we have at the same time emphasis, equal emphasis on the environment, on the way in which we can shape our economy, and the shape how to have a justice and an equitable society. So all these are part of the education for sustainable development. I think that this answers a number of the questions, and helps for everybody to get deeper there. Also, I would like to, I have, for example, one identical question by Neville, Sigana, and Dura. How can we change the perspective of locals from viewing UNESCO sites as funding opportunities, and how to see them as a collective responsibility or collective part of collective identity? This is a very easy question, but difficult to answer, because it depends on the mindset, and it depends also in the way we have presented from the very beginning the vision about a biosphere reserve or a UNESCO site altogether. If we present it as we do many times, as one more opportunity for development of the classical, way, I mean, more opportunities for prosperity, more money, then it will be difficult to change it. If from the very beginning, when we have the application for the site to be designated, is clearly presented to everybody as a value, as an important value for which, first of all, they have to be proud of, and that this pride is because of the nature of the area, because of the culture of the area, the character of the area, the human and other qualities in the area, then it is more easy. Of course, all of us have, I always use the Gaussian because this is really in our society. There are people who are very interested about what we are doing in a biosphere reserve and people who remain ignorant till the end. The thing is how we can change the perception of of a critical mass of people. And this critical mass of people sometimes is is formed by different subgroups. For example, if we have uh, uh, tourist business or restaurants that build their clientele with with quality aspects, quality about local products, quality about uh, the way in which they are decorated, the tours they propose to them. So this already this business um, is shaping. It is still a local business with funding opportunities, but not funding whatever. So we have to use also this um, additional tool in parallel with the tool we use for people who live there or who usually visit such a place that a priori admire and appreciate the values of the area. So we need to use the first group and the second group, linking interests with people who really love the area and will actually play the ambassadors there. So this is always a very delicate and not very easy task. And the best way to do it, if you have allies, NGOs of the region, people within the local administrations that see that this is a different type of development and they agree on that, so they may finance the activities for that, and also school. The school plays an important role because the children may go back to and teach their parents, and we know about that. And I go back to one of the questions about how we check the effectiveness of education. There are one or two questions. One of the best things is to check if the children go actually back and advocate for what they know, what they have achieved in the classroom or what they learned. So this is the best way to demonstrate the success of your intervention. I don't know if there are any. There are some questions about the strategy, the Mediterranean strategy on ESD, and how this is better, or we add to the overall principles of UNESCO. I have to say to you, to remind you, that out of the, apart from the very basic, very important work of UNESCO, there are some regional two regional actually strategies and action plans that I know of, and I have worked for both. The one is the UNICE, United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. This has nothing to do with the European community. UNECE, Economic Commission for Europe, is a body created after the Second World War um, for restoring actually the destroyed Europe. At that time, it is the entire Europe plus Russia. And because of Russia, there were also the former Soviet republics. So because of that, for balancing reasons, because it is a political body, there is also the United States and Canada included. So the UNECE is practically the northern hemisphere, including countries of different background, different religion, different status, and so on and so forth. So this is where we started, and we had already in 2005 the first strategy, the first ESD strategy, giving the strategy to UNESCO for the decade of the education for sustainable development, which was 2005-2014. Already there, and I advise you to read a few basic documents. One is the Declaration of Thessaloniki. Second is the strategy, the UNEC strategy of 2005. And the third is the Mediterranean strategy, which was actually at the end of the decade, based, inspired by the first, which brought in all the entire Mediterranean and the South. And the strategy is much, much more concrete, than a series of principles. All the principles are there, but in a very concise and constructive way. And what is important that does not exist elsewhere, the question about the Mediterranean, is that we have actually the new action plan, which goes till 2030, where you have the very specific problems, issues for the Mediterranean, including for water, for climate change, for droughts and floods or water, for biodiversity, for socioeconomic problems of the Mediterranean. And a list of priorities accepted by the countries. So many of the countries of the Mediterranean follow this text, not always addressing it namely, but many of the, from the reports we have, many of their activities or decisions at political or operational level are actually closely linked with that. And also as MIO, under the project we have the WES or Horizon 2020 few years ago, and now under WES BCA, we conduct also training of trainers in the southern Mediterranean countries, east and southern Mediterranean countries, and physical meetings or webinars where we actually try to share experiences as we are doing also here. Now,
maybe to give you some time to
please.
take a breath, drink some
Yeah,
water.
I just wanted for
Ah,
that to thank you. It's the right moment. I wanted to kindly ask our friend the island of Elba to reply to some of the questions addressed to him. I know that he has replied already something.
Giacomo, I don't think he's here. I haven't seen
He's
him.
not.
Are you here, Giacomo?
From the Museo del Mare di Capo Oliveri. It is a very interesting case. Well, if he is not here, we will come back to that. I find it very interesting in the sense,
The human libraries, it's a methodology that is quite known
yes,
in Europe as a method, but for me it was the first time that I saw it applied in the context of a biosphere reserve. So the idea is simple. You take people from the region having some experience on a topic that you want to explore, and the reader uh, is a person who comes to this local expert, or not necessarily expert. A local person can be an immigrant, someone with some embodied experience on the topic you want to investigate, and then the reader asks them about their experience. And this is very interesting in the concept of the biosphere reserve, as it was explained by Giacomo, the way they did it.
I see Martina flagging, happy for that. Hi,
Nice.
Martina. I think that an additional element, there are three additional elements here to what Hiro mentioned. One is that they have used also an overall story, apart from the story of the region, the shipwreck, and all this, the findings and this kind of thing that create an extra, you know, an intriguing element there. Um, with Alexander Dumas behind, you know, all these aspects that create an atmosphere,
Myths.
a myth, and the atmosphere on which you more easily somehow integrate um, social and historical elements, even myths or whatever, for that. And the second is that because of that, they have a museum, a small museum, which is closely linked with the library. So you have something to show, and this brings the visitors as an important, you know, actor in this. And I see that in their evolution, they have managed to create from something very simple, something very complex as a learning process for the young people of the region, particularly in an island where you don't have many entertainment or whatever. So, and this is a cultural center, but this cultural center is not like many of the cultural centers built by local authorities, which are empty. And this is the important element here, that the educational process brings in uh, young people and the society uh, closer to knowledge, part of which is ESD, not all of that. And this is very important for me. I don't know if there is any uh,
I'd like to
comment.
yeah, and I'd like, if you want to, you can always take the floor, raise your hand, please. But starting from a question on behavior change, I think it was Dura again asked it. Beyond technical knowledge, how do we evaluate behavioral change in students who participate in ecosystem restoration projects? I would say in general, because the behavior change, I think, is the holy grail of ESD and all that we try to do. We try to change behaviors in the direction that we want, that we envision. I can share some things, but I would like also to ask all of you to share your views if you have tried to monitor it in some ways. So the only direct but expensive way to see if this is happening, especially if we're talking about a school setting, for example, is to observe it. So this is very expensive because you need a researcher that is there and observes the everyday behavior of students. But there are indirect ways that you can do it. An indirect way, for example, if we're talking about if you've done a project on water saving, and you want to see if this has resulted, then you can use the bills. The water bills, the energy bills, depending on the project that you have run. And another indirect way, we need to stress that, is the surveys. In the surveys, people, when they are asked about their behavior, tend to green their behavior. So they state, they pledge, their personal pledge is that their actual behavior is not their actual, but it's a little bit greener than what they actually do. And this is something that we need to keep in mind in case we do it through a survey. I don't know, Professor, or any of you, if you want to add your views on behavior change.
Well, in fact, it's one of the most difficult things, as you mentioned already. The first reaction. I mean, what I mentioned about the students becoming teachers is not necessarily their change in behavior. It is more that they become active messengers to something. But we have observed that in many cases, when someone becomes a messenger of an idea and repeats that, this becomes part of his behavior. The long term are also the so-called birthday cards. I mean, keeping if we exchange your birthday days and dates and also your emails, for example, or I don't know what else will be. In the past, we had just mailing addresses, is to go back to some of the people after 1 year, after 5 years, after 10 years, and find honestly asking what you have achieved on that. You have done this and that and that. And you, this is a long, a lifelong survey. They have published some of these surveys in the United States, in the UK several years ago. There is a need to see the lasting impact, which is very important, the lasting impact. And the lasting impact, you see, for example, people who do not, they may use a lot of paper, but they don't throw it away. They use it twice, or, even the margins. Or you see people who um, keep their clothes and make sure that this is not going to be wasted. You see these kind of things. And you need to create, and this is in the different societies, is something different. What are the areas where someone could, you create um, the criteria for that, how you can judge the behavioral change. It's not the same way in all places. So this is what I have to say, that it is very, very difficult. We need to keep track on things. And what was proposed by Iro are the most usual things, but we have to find additional ones, for example, on the wastage of food. And you may see through our education that there is, I had people coming to me saying that after what you have explained to us, we have in my family, we have reduced the wastage of food a lot, also by managing not to buy too much food, that is wasted because of whatever reason. So there are it is an interesting thing, but in biosphere reserves, we can only check the stated, I mean, the stated behavioral change after some years, and check it with observations you see in the supermarkets, in the waste that you go and have a survey of what is wasted, and these kind of things. These are to decide about impact on entire communities. There are ways that we can do that, measuring overall consumption, overall wastage, many other things, types of beans they use, all these kind of things. I don't know if you have any question or other question on that, or if we can move to some other things. Bernard is not with us, eh?
No.
Okay. There is some question. I don't know if we have Mr. Haritopoulos with us, because there is a question for him.
No, unfortunately, he didn't
Okay.
join.
There is a question about the institutional flexibility in the non-formal sector play in enabling the adoption of whole institute approach. If I understand it well, first of all, the whole institute approach or the whole school approach is a very powerful approach. And as far as I know, you don't need a special permission for that, for a school, because what you are doing has nothing to do with it might only be encouraged, but it is a decision of the school or of the director even, but most probably and the most welcome is to be decided by the educational community, including, of course, if possible, parents and students. So why it is powerful? Because you can, you remember the four elements. The curriculum is the most, let's say, formal part. But there is, in most schools, there are niches and time that can be used for projects, for flexible, to introduce this kind of themes that allow for explaining and giving the messages of sustainable development. For the other three, it is very much really of the initiative of the school, not of the national or ministerial decision. They can decide to have an economy, to close the windows or switch off the lights, and see how using the right colors and painting or whatever. These kind of things are not do not require any permission from higher authorities. The same is with the culture within the school, and also the role of the school with the society. Now, the other area where you might need resources is to have it as a showcase. But what I want to stress here is that if we have resources, we can have a better insulation, a better garden, and all these kind of things, and have a showcase. But every school can be a showcase, showing that changing the bulbs, electric bulbs, or having a plumber and showing to this, making the students to identify leakages or whatever in the school. And all things that have to do with efficiency, effectiveness, economy, all these things, and make the school, the building and the functions in the school greener, has the educational impact we are talking about. So in my point of view, we don't need too much of additional flexibility in order to have an active whole school approach in the schools. And we have to explain that and advocate that.
We lost your video, always coming. We can see you. But in the meantime, please take the floor if you want. Those of you who are with us, to share your experience in your education interventions, the whole school approach, as you said, non-formal education settings that you have created and how they went. We have Bevan, we have one hand.
You're muted.
Good afternoon, all. Hi there. Okay, so I really liked what I just heard now, especially because my mind keeps drifting to ideas and thinking, so it's a bit hard to keep track. But I really started to think now about taking entrepreneurship, because here in South Africa we have entrepreneurship days in the schools where you get different people from different professions in different industries, and in our area we get a lot of environmentalists also within EE education, as well as other opportunities for work or careers in the green economy. But to take it into the schools practically, because like having a plumber to show kids how to fix and discuss a leak or a particular problem that you could find often, and then you could have like 4 or 5 sets of that where girls and boys could get involved and also give it a go to fit something and test it out possibly for a leak. But that would require more resources, But that is not impossible, because we have, for our project and for the last few years, we've created what is called now EOM, an educational on the move mobile educational hub, which we focus now in last year, particularly on rural and farm schools, with linking it to the curriculum and taking 4 activities relating around 1, the water cycle, water, wetlands, and ways of doing river monitoring like mini SAS, so small mini stream assessment, and recording that, and then covering recycling or waste management, what it means, what is it for us. In our schools, we have a lot of pollution and litter, and understanding somebody will clean it up because that's a job. But so we have a lot of resources on the school grounds in terms of to deliver a good waste management experience or recycling, to add value to the waste for them to see what is valuable. And then introducing ecology through earthworms, by taking physical live wormeries and letting the kids dig and discuss and viewing them under a microscope for the first time, because in our schools, many of our schools don't have microscopes, and beyond the worm, seeing life just in magnification. And then our second one was on indigenous vegetation, but focusing on alien invasive plant species and the impact that they have on our environments. So to bring more practicality to that, in the areas that we worked in, a lot of mountainous areas, vast hills, but alien vegetation can be viewed and magnified with binoculars. And so they get to identify different species, learn, view different areas of the mountain and see the vegetation. Yeah, and then also get an opportunity. A lot of the schools have alien vegetation, and the kids to introduce them how to clear safely and tools, and they get to themselves cut down the alien vegetation at the schools. So, in a practical sense, I think that's what I would share that we've also done, and just my idea on entrepreneurship. And thank you very much. The material I find, I miss the engagements also of the breakout rooms, I must say those discussions, getting to know individuals a little bit better and sharing information, and then to feed back into the group. Because as a individual involved in biospheres, I have really liked the growth and the recapping also of information. Okay, thank you very much.
We can hear you.
Could you not hear me the whole time?
Thank you very much indeed. It was excellent, this intervention, all what you are doing. Allow me to expand a little bit on what you said. Two cases. In Egypt, they have used this plumber approach, moving also to the parents, to the mothers. And they have also created this as entrepreneurship for women. So a link, very interesting link, and the same, similar others, is how from the schools, particularly in rural areas, they can create active units for production of compost. So what you mentioned with the worms and all that could be linked also with an activity with the family. So these are ways to facilitate also behavioral changes, and also to link it with practical skilling, reskilling, upskilling within the entire community. So imagine how more powerful the message from a school to the society becomes. So indeed, thank you very much, because
we have also Celine that wants to take the floor and build on what the.
Please, Celine, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. So let's see, video. There we go. So I just wanted to share that I added a few videos in the Slido this week. So there's a video of our education of on the move at one of the schools last year, as well as a short video on the citizen science that we do. It's more technical, so it talks about the techniques, but yeah, it just might give some nice insight. And there's also a video on micro business beekeeping that we're doing with 20 ladies in our valley. So thank you. Go explore.
We can't hear you.
Oh no, I just said to go and have a look at the Slido if you'd like to see our projects.
Thank you very much. We'll take profit of that. Thanks a lot. Since we touched upon citizen science, and there was a question here about the citizen science linked with the rivers, we have in Asterousia we had a project with marine litter monitoring, Actually, this was presented in a number of meetings, international meetings, and also there are some publications in the scientific literature on that. And you can perhaps Hiro may share it. What is important, and I think for all of you who have the opportunity to live near sea in coastal areas or biosphere reserves in coastal areas, this is an activity that is very useful for the society, for at national, local, national, regional, international level. When we teach students, but also the local volunteers of all ages, it doesn't need a scientific background, but they can collect the litter and list it according to some protocols, rather easy protocols. And if this is done properly, and you can have a person in a nearby university or other where we can also help him or her to interpret the data. This data can be also accepted. This happens already in Greece, accepted to be included in the national monitoring. So there is always someone in the ministry checking the results. But if these are well, from the beginning, well designed, these surveys, add information from biosphere reserves, sometimes from remote areas where you don't have frequent or ever formal surveys. So this is purely science, citizen science, and is not just beach cleans. It is a real scientific approach you are doing. You have appropriate protocol and monitoring for that. And those of you who might be interested, first of all, there will be a publication. There is an announcement of the publication, but also we can share with you the protocols. These are formal protocols for the European Union and for the Barcelona Convention for the entire Mediterranean countries. There are few more questions about the importance of the learning outside the classroom. And yes, actually stressing this. I would like to say that we had for years, for decades, the open air classes and the out of class approaches. What we stress here is that this need to be sustainable education. So to bring together elements that, particularly when we go to a biosphere reserve, but not only there, even in a damaged city, we need to make the right correlations between the natural environment and the social environment and the anthropogenic impact, not only negative, also positive. So this is very important, and this you don't forget indeed. In a central market, you know how much you can teach in a central market. getting around the products and making comments about which are mass produced or not, and all the care given there from the field to the market, and explaining that, and get into species, and many things can be done also in a market place, not only in the biosphere reserve, out of the class, of course.
Yes, I'd like also to. I agree with the professor, and from our experience, we need to stress the effect, the positive effect of outdoor education in general, no matter what the environment is. I've had an excellent workshop in a burned forest, and all I could see around was black, but with nature starting to regenerate, and still this was hopeful. So outdoor education, and from the examples Bevan and Celine shared, and the examples we have from you also throughout this course, we need to nurture this positive feeling of being outside, the curiosity of young minds that we need to feed in with the proper questions, as a professor said. So when you are in the market, what kind of questions do you feed them to to let their minds explore further the topic that you wish, and let them come to their own conclusions. But yeah, I needed to stress that the importance of interventions that are outside the classrooms.
Well, this may be linked also with Dura's question on what are 3 specific pedagogical activities that could bridge the gap between knowing about biodiversity loss, for example, and feeling. I guess this is the second, and motivate to take action. These are you remember the 4 uh, objectives of education, and three skills or competences we want to develop in everyone, in every student, every pupil. The first is, first of all, first, second doesn't make sense, the ordering, but the first is, for me, is learning to be. Learning to be. For learning to be, um, to be, you have to understand you always compare yourself with the others and the surrounding. Through this comparison, you actually build your personality, and you have to reconcile your weaknesses with the others and with the environment. So this is a first attempt also to compare yourself with the needs of the environment. So to be is very important, to be well with yourself. Not perfect, but to understand and say, these are my ambitions, these are my measures. The second is to learn how to learn. And pedagogically, this is very important. Very important what you need to memorize. You need to memorize some things. And what is the most important, the critical thinking and the other things, how you deal with that. And the constructive, I mean, how you construct knowledge, and how you add to what you have. I'll come back to that in a minute. The third is to learn how to work with others and live with others. And the final one is also to act, to learn how to act. So methodologically, we don't learn in the same way, and we don't act in the same way, all of us. It is not necessary to do that for all of us. But it's good to know a little bit better how each one of us learns, because if we learn well, then we behave well, if we really learn well. And this is important. And I have given even a PhD there, using some of the natural phenomena to explain how we learn. And some of us have the need to go deep first in one discipline, in one area, even very narrow, and then they start building more on that. So we have something already specific, and then we learn, we hear, and the specific needs formal education, and in parallel, through informal and non-formal learning, hearing, we build the volume of what we have, which is like, imagine, like a floating space where we can move, but is well anchored. Others start with that. They have the ability to hear, collect things, and synthesize that. And at a given moment, again, they feel that there will be some areas where they have more interest, even a hobby that makes them go deep and anchors this. So these are two different ways, and this is the difference also between students who like the informal approach versus to the formal, and vice versa, because these are two approaches. They need both. We need both in order to build this. So learning to learn is one thing. But we have other, in chemistry and in learn, we say the knowledge is going to be crystallized. What does it mean? It comes from chemistry. When you have a precipitate and you leave it there for some time, it reshapes from amorphous into crystallic. Sometimes is the same with knowledge. Knowledge is there, you bring some additional elements, and little by little you reinterpret internally, and with some additional elements, this knowledge, and becomes really crystal clear. So there is also, but this needs a saturation. This needs to have enough knowledge, more than enough to have this crystal. We have in nature also the nodules in the ocean. And these nodules are formed there without having saturation. But you have specific conditions where you have a static electrism, a charge on the surfaces. These are people among us who have the talent, even a single word said, a single notion said, to be captured by them and automatically integrated in what they know. If you are such a person, you have a special privilege. You have to know that and to cultivate that. So sometimes we have this only for things that we are very much interested. Many of the collectors have this kind of ability to capture even the slightest, So all these things we need to explain to our students from very early age in order to help them to cultivate their talent in the different approaches. It was a very long, monologue on that, but I hope that you learned something from that.
Maybe inspired by your intervention, people can share their favorite pedagogical activity or method that they think works effectively to bridge knowing with feeling and with acting. We already mentioned some.
I have a question. If there is no, I have a question here about by Lona Alessandrini. Is there a guide that indicates how to develop correct citizen science approach and correct heritage interpretation? The word correct is difficult to answer because absolutely, there is nothing absolute in all what we are doing. There are many ways to approach the same thing, and this to a large extent it's always a mixture of two things. It's knowledge and experience, but also the third one is talent in this. So knowledge is important. And here I want to say that there are several articles on approaches. Citizen science is rather new, but there are already many articles there. Even in the articles, you have to check if this is what you are asking for, because under citizen science or participatory science, which is even more correct, because students are not citizens per se already. They are not yet. They don't have civil rights. So participatory science or citizen science it covers a wide area. What we are talking about are citizen science that has direct impacts on education. It's not just a research that a person, which is very useful, of course, but a person taking photographs sends these photographs to a particular address. This is, you may identify a rare species like that by sending these photographs. Is a good contribution, but it's not directly linked with education. So what I don't think that there is any particular, at least I don't know any particular guide for citizen science links with education. There are articles.
There are guides and publications. If one browses in the internet, you can find a lot of guides. But as you said, it has to do a lot.
It's not
a lot to do with your intention every time.
Yeah.
So you need to read and modify to do it the way that it fits you. But there are guides.
And also education. Not so. There are two things very close, but not the same. The science, the scientific per se, and the citizen science as a tool for education, for environmental education and education for sustainable, particularly education for sustainable development, is not so much there. It is more environmental education, whenever is this. And it is a lot there, as Hiro said. You need to, this is why I said you need to read several things to find actually what actually is the real tool for you. I don't know if we have any other thing on, and again, the citizen science to be, it should be credible and try to produce reliable and results that can be accepted as true contributions to research. So this is a different thing. It's not every measurement we may make a citizen science. So we need to keep that in mind. It is not that I take the students out and give them some, equipment to measure the temperature or this is not science. It should not be flagged, labeled citizen science. Citizen science, it has to have rules and protocols. And this is very, very, very important. Very, very important. There are some questions about NGOs. How can NGOs and local museums better twin with schools to replicate the UNESCO site methodology in communities that are not near a protected area? This is, I think, a very interesting question. The question, I paraphrase it, is what we are talking about the biosphere reserve, education biosphere reserve, is transferable also in areas outside biosphere reserves? Can we learn from that and extrapolate that, extend that outside? The answer is yes. It requires some imagination. It requires how to select things from what we are doing within a biosphere reserve or a museum. That is an already very favorable, ready environment for us because it has interesting artifacts or very interesting species or ecotopes, whatever, while near the school we might not have so interesting cultural or natural elements. Still, we can really invent many of these things ourselves. And it is not bad to use in some of these cases something, some of the elements mentioned in, last week with the postman and this week with the library, human library. Stories that can replace interesting stories that can replace artifacts, or bringing in pictures or models or something that may intrigue people and then take them out. It can be very, very simple and humble things. To give you an example, you can observe the doors of the different older and more modern houses or buildings. You may observe simple architectural elements in the different in the distance around, and bring something or pictures of what it was there some time ago. Or you may bring spot one or two um, trees or plants somewhere in a corner and start your story with that. Or you see where the waters go, what is the drainage system, or a good or bad system, and start discussing about water and all these kind of things. You need to use your imagination and make stories out of that. So we are following the same process we are using in a biosphere reserve, but we create a substitute of that in the area with the elements we have. It's very important. And now we have also many additional tools, including, augmented reality, or even, artificial, so you may change a little bit the landscape around you, asking people to imagine how the area could be better without destroying what is there, but enriching or replacing something or whatever. So all these things are possible today, and this way we integrate all what we have discussed about biosphere reserves.
We are out of time.
So, from my side, I would like to thank you all for this opportunity to meet again and have you all here sharing our passion about a good education, quality education, and education for sustainable development and the environment and culture. What is important is that we open our mind always. There are out there many colleagues, very young and experienced, but all of them bring in very valuable elements. We always learn. I learn a lot from you and even from your questions. So I'm very thankful to all of you. I would like to thank my collaborators a lot, Iro and Vicky, and all others who have contributed also with lectures, with case studies, and keep in touch. So thank you very much, and back to you, Iro.
I have nothing more to add. I see here many people that have contributed to either phase B or phase A. I see Maria Peroni, Maria Gagliotti, Nico Constantino. I saw earlier Annalisa. Yes, Fation. So, guys, until next year, let's keep in touch.
Try to fill to all what is needed in order to have
Yes, the
our
deadline.
nice certificate. Some of you have already a collection. I see Martina there and others who have a good collection. So thank you very much indeed. And till next time. Till next time. Thank you very much indeed. All the
Bye.
best.
Thank you, Professor.
Ciao.